So today, I want to chat all about how you can plan for production success in 2026. And the reason this is really important is because three big things are changing in how production works. And once you understand these three things, these three big changes, you can plan accordingly for how you want to set yourself up for success. The three big things that are changing are one, the cost of creation for production is going down. And it already has gone down a lot. I can tell you on the inside exactly the data we have at Creatorwood of how long it takes us to make a production using AI, the full cost. And if you're curious about what these productions look like and the quality of these productions, you understand what you're getting for that money that we're putting into it. I'll show you exactly what that is. So I'm gonna put it in the chat and you can watch it on your own time. But this is an example of a 9-minute film, the beginning of a longer 60-minute film. And again, it's a YouTube video. You're welcome to watch it. And what that took us to create in AI costs was essentially just about 7,000 coins, which on the Creatorwood platform, one coin equals 10 cents. So it was $700. We don't get a huge margin on our compute on Creatorwood, so that cost is mostly, what we're paying a similar amount to that. But that's what we got after regenerations, after start frames, after everything. Do I think costs will come down eventually, where you can maybe for less AI compute get better and more output? Absolutely, that will happen. But right now, that's where it's at, which for roughly, $700-ish in compute, to make something that's almost 10 minutes long is remarkable, way cheaper than it's ever been possible. But then there's the other question, which is the what I'll, for lack of better words, use the word labor. But really, when I say labor, I mean hours put into it, right? How much hours are being put into that production? So how much hours went into what you're able to watch there in that link, The Trials of Freddie Goodchild. Where we're at now is on average, end to end, 6 hours from start to finish, full ed and editing to being completely done to make something of of pretty high quality that we're happy with. So what that means is that, you spend roughly to make, in this case, it's roughly a 9-minute film, a little under that. We spent right around 50 hours and $700 in AI compute to make this. So 50 hours depends on what you value your time at if you're doing it, if you're hiring someone to do this for you, how much they're being paid. But this is just the cost it takes us to do it. So for us, all in, our cost to produce a minute of finished film, not produced film, finished film, because the cost of production of, like, generating clips is different from, I trimmed it down and edited it. For a minute of finished film, we're spending right around $160. This is all in cost. So that is, for anyone who's familiar with film, um, remarkable. That is insane. And recently, actually, in India, there was just an AI movie made, 95% made with AI. Their budget was $240,000. So there is, using the movie machine, you could get things done a lot faster and a lot cheaper. Um, Now, Tom asked a great question in terms of like distribution. So really, Creator with the movie machine itself, we produce things. We help you produce your films way cheaper. Um, we also do it on behalf of others who want to pay our team. And we have a production arm at production.creatorwood.tv. And as I told you, I was just completely transparent about what it costs us to do it, the time it takes us to do it. And that's how we do it. That's my minus SG&A for us, right? Which is like our general expenses, marketing, other things that we use to run the company. But that's what it just takes to get the raw output. So first of all, there's no reason you can't achieve a similar quality of output with a similar time plus money investment. And two is in terms of distribution, the answer is for anything anyone makes using the Move Machine, you own your content fully. You can distribute to anywhere. we don't make any guarantees about if you will get distribution. That is not always that's not necessarily up to us, but there's two things that we can do to help you. So one is we're coming out with, we actually already built it, but we've been having it in a sort of private beta, a streaming platform where anyone can upload content. You keep 80% of the revenue. That's the gross revenue. So you keep the vast, vast majority of the revenue, and you keep all the emails of your paying subscribers and your just followers. So you'll have direct access to your audience through this platform, and it's completely free to upload to. No one, you can upload films even not made using the Movie Machine, and you can also upload to Creatorwood and any other platform. So that's one thing we're doing to try and bring the barrier to entry down in filmmaking, is just remove the impact of a gatekeeper. Now, of course, the pro and con of Creatorwood is the revenue split's great. You get a ton of control. You keep all your rights. The downside is Creatorwood's not a big streaming platform, at least as of right now. Maybe in a couple years, as we keep investing in it, it will be the biggest streaming platform. Well, that's our goal, but the honest truth is it's obviously not that big today. So in terms of getting audience, most people have to market it themselves. We'll talk a little bit about that if you're using the Creatorwood distribution platform, but you can also use other distributors. And there's nothing against you taking this content, bringing it to a cable television channel. There's nothing against you just creating a 5 or 6 minute proof of concept and bringing it to a studio, or going to a traditional streamer. We are working on setting up more consumer partnerships to help people who create content using our platform be able to reach more of these people. Like, we'd love to be able to help that, but we again can't make any promises. So the answer, Tom, to your question really is you can do either. You can use conventional channels, or you can use your own channel. You can use Creatorwood. It's up to you how you want to approach it. Our goal is just to create those opportunities. But that's the first big thing that's changing in filmmaking, right? So the cost to create films is going radically cheaper, and that's very interesting because it allows a ton of ideas that weren't economical previously to take the risk on, or people to create things that didn't have the economic ability, now who can go and create these things. That is remarkable, but it's only one change. There's another change going on. So folks, maybe, I think if you're here, you probably started to read the email that I sent out last night. That was a sort of tome about the fatal lie of quality stories. I want to bring out a point that I mentioned in there because it's really, really important, which is the notion of the talent-led growth engine versus a paid ad or social first growth engine. Let's talk about it, because this is the second big change happening in filmmaking right now, and uh, it's big. So Hollywood, and this is not just Hollywood, by the way, this is Bollywood, Nollywood, all filmmaking. If it's the end output is designed to be watched on a screen in your home that's big, like a TV, or on a movie theater, you've had a very specific way to get audiences interested in those stories. What that's looked like is ultimately having talent, right? Talent that people know about, talent that are oftentimes expensive to get to work on your movie. And for good reason, because they bring in the audience. They do. They bring in the audience. The A-list actor salaries are absurd, but that's effectively your marketing budget. You have to think about when you look at a movie production, and if you see, wow, that movie cost $100 million to produce, what you should really be looking at, and mind you, it's not that there's not a lot of transparency around these numbers all the time. So you know, that's one thing. But if you're, analyzing the finance of a studio, what you want to really look at is what is the production cost minus star pay, right? So if the total production cost is 100 million, but I paid, Jennifer Lawrence $30 million, I paid Robert De Niro another 30 million to work in my film, then really my actual cost to produce the film were 40 million. And 60 million is really star pay that's effectively going to hopefully bring viewers in, right? That makes sense. And look, it works if you have a lot of money to be able to pay people, and you also are going to be bringing in big stars that can bring in a lot of viewers. And this actually is the logical thing to do. Logical. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the logical thing to do when your production costs are fixed so high. Meaning, if it's already going to take me $10 million, $20 million to make an action thriller, I might as well go spend another 10 or 20 million dollars recruiting big stars who can bring in viewers and help me pay back. Right? That makes logical sense. But if we're talking now that you can make any film, regardless of whether it's a cartoon, an action thriller, or a romance film, for roughly, again, like, $80 a minute in AI costs, that's fair. And 5 hours to 6 hours, maybe 7 or 8 hours, we'll call that's the delta of time per finished minute. Because we're not talking about produced minutes now, we're talking about finished minutes. Um, that is that's a different world. And if I'm only spending maybe, you know, five to 10K in AI costs, I'm spending now maybe 10 to 15K in labor costs, depending on if you're paying someone else to do it or if you're doing it yourself. Um, all of a sudden, does it make sense to spend $10 million in star pay when you're only having 25K go into the production? It might not. It can, but it might not. And this is where the second big change of filmmaking has already happened. This isn't science fiction, already has happened, which is the social led growth engine, which is either through organic visibility on social, clipping, which I'll discuss, or paid ads. Um, let's talk about who's doing this. Essentially, Real Torch and Dropbox, they're two companies that have apps that were downloaded pretty much just as much times as Netflix was in the US last year. So these are two apps that are getting downloaded millions of times a month. Just crazy how popular they are. Um, now, the biggest thing about these companies that they nailed down was making productions cheap. There's a lot of limitations to it. Like if you watch these productions, you go, wow, they're not that great. Like, it says it's nighttime, but the scene's shot in daytime. Or, you've got like, quote unquote, low quality acting, or you've only got three people in the cast, or you've only got, two scenes in the entire 90-minute film. The answer to that is they're producing these films for roughly 150 to 300K on average, which is still a lot more than it's going to cost the average person using the movie machine, a factor of 10 to oftentimes 20 times more, but still radically cheap compared to what Hollywood's doing. So they're not hiring big actors in those productions. What they're doing instead is producing more. They're creating 50 to 100 in a year, and they're placing smaller bets on clipping and paid ads to drive discovery to the film. So what they're doing instead of going and getting people to watch on the big screen is getting people to watch these films on their phone. It's what's called vertical films. And you click an ad or you click after watching a TikTok video and you go watch the rest of the film on an app and pay for it. And these apps now make billions of dollars a year. So the second big change in all of this to understand is that how you discover viewers is changing. And it used to be the only way to really get a movie discovered was big PR and a talent-led growth engine. Now it's shifting to being able to use social media and use paid ads, which are much more democratized. The barrier to entry to these things is either no money or just $5 a day to be able to get in and find viewers. That is remarkable. Now, Tom asked a great question here in the chat, which is what is the approximate ratio of production cost versus finished cost per minute? So as I mentioned, the actual cost per finished minute when it comes to the AI side is 800 coins. Essentially $80. In terms of the ratio of produced, it costs roughly, when you count in start frames, just over $20 a minute for produced film. So what's happening on average for us is to produce essentially 1 minute of finished film, we are creating something like 3.5 minutes of film to actually get that. And what ends up happening to this 3.5 minutes is some of the shots that AI generated weren't good, so we didn't even use it. And then we'll take something like 2 out of those 3.5 minutes, and then we'll cut it down, we'll edit it and get to that final 1 minute. So we're essentially generating 3.5 minutes to take 2 minutes, put it on the timeline, and edit that 2 minutes down to 1 minute. So it's essentially 3.5 produced minutes to equal that final 1 minute, which is where you get that $70 to $80 number from, which is just realistically what it takes to do now. This is like based on data. We've been around for a couple months now. We've done a lot of this, and it's a statistically significant amount across, at this point, hundreds and approaching 1,000 minutes of produced content. So that is kind of the math there. So that is the first and second big change. First change is cost of creation is going down. Second is cost of the barrier to entry and marketing costs is going down. Not necessarily that marketing costs are going down as a net percentage of what you'll make in a film. If the film is going to make $10 million, it might still spend 3 to 4 million on marketing. If it's going to make 100K, it might spend 30 to 40K on marketing. It's not that marketing is going down as a percentage of gross revenue. It's that the barrier to entry to get into marketing is lower. Instead of having to spend tons of money out of pocket to even get going, you can spend literally $5 or even no money and just get started marketing your film, which is totally different, again, from the Hollywood equation. So we're seeing this second big change, which is changing how we plan for production success. And the third, and maybe, in my opinion, the thing that is like the most exciting when thinking about planning for production success is if you are in an AI filmmaking workflow, the actual location that you're in and time of day that you're doing these things in matters a whole lot less. To be able to go and make a traditional movie. Forget the time you're spending and the money you're spending. It's how you're spending it. You have to do it when sets are open. When, if you're doing it in a restaurant, you got to start before the restaurant opens and rent these things out. So forget the cost of it. It's the logistics of it. And if you have a day job, if you are in taking care of kids, if you are in any position in your life where it would make any of these things challenging, you're gated out from this form of creativity. But now that is no longer true. So you can actually plan this whole new world of production around what fits your lifestyle because you can be making a movie at 1 a.m. from, a snowy cabin in Indiana, and you also can be making it, at noon on the beach in Miami or just in your apartment or in your house, etc. That's pretty remarkable. So these are the three big changes happening in production. And what I now want to cover is the 4 steps that we can now take, given this, to plan production success in 2026. So let's dive in. And as I dive in, I'm very grateful for you, Tom, asking questions in the chat. I love questions from people. I have a lot of information I share. I know I tend to overwhelm people. I talk fast. This is recorded, so you can watch it back. But I'd love to hear your questions. Stop me. I want to be able to help you because this is really the birth of a whole new framework of how to think about filmmaking and how to think about storytelling in this sense. And I just want to share it all with you all so that you can build and create amazing stories and experiences for viewers. So let's dive into the big question here because I talked a lot about how the business of filmmaking is changing. And if you know anything about me, you know how passionate I am about business. For some reason, I feel like the 2 games I fell in love with were science fiction and business. And it feels like now we're being able to combine both together. Growing up, I wrote 12 sci-fi books in high school and then went to go on and start a software company to help authors build businesses, selling essentially serial fiction to their readers. And then I went to go on and work for Mr. Beast and help him grow his business as a strategist there, specifically on the content side. So I understood how we could use data to make his videos go more viral. And if you don't know Mr. Beast, he gets over 100 million views on every single one of his videos, pretty much. There's very few that have under 100 million views. He's the most viewed and followed creator in the world. So after learning all this AI filmmaking business gets me really excited. And my personal vision is to help storytellers like you rule the world. But your vision might be different. So what you want to start with in thinking about your success for 2026 is where do you want to go over the next year or a couple years in your life? What role is storytelling and filmmaking going to play in your life? And I want you to articulate your dream, but I want you to be honest about what that dream is, meaning we all aren't going to have the same vision of success. And that's a good thing. The only way you were able to be successful in the past is to, have a movie get top of the box office or have Netflix, acquire or buy out one of your films. Like, all that's great. If that's your vision of success, please still go for it. I'm not stopping you. But what's happening now is as the paths of filmmaking are ultimately going to become more diverse, we're going to see more diverse pathways to success. My hope, my optimism is that more people find success in doing this. But success doesn't have to mean money at all. Success is really how you define it. So for some folks, success may look like this. They want to see their film be brought to life, right? You just want to see it on screen. And that is your number one priority. You want to bring a story to life. You want to be able to show it to your family and friends. In that case, amazing. Like, I'm here for you. And what we want to plan out is how you can do that without taking away from other areas of your life and on a budget that makes sense for you, right? Both time and money. So that's a group one. Group two, you might be in a situation where you actually love the traditional filmmaking world. You might already be in it. You might be a producer, you might be a director, you might be an actor, you might be an editor, you might be an aspiring screenwriter. I love you all. But what you might be thinking when you're doing this is, I still want to work with actors on set. I still want to get my film made and funded in a traditional way. And that's not a bad thing to want. So you can now think about, how can I use AI to help me break in? And the answer might be a proof of concept film, which we already had a creator. His name's Brian Kay. Really fantastic guy. He used Creatorwood to make a proof of concept of his film, and he's sharing it with a, a producer who was interested. So he's using that to basically get ahead, using that to show them. And that's cool because you can make a proof of concept now for a relatively small amount. The next thing is, are you doing this you know to in part of your broader storytelling dream? So many of our people are authors or writers who maybe write books, and now they're just excited to see the story come to life. Maybe that could be another way that they expand their storytelling dreams in business. And that's great. Knowing that you are a storyteller first and you want to create in many different mediums, that's awesome. And then there's another group of folks who are really excited about the potential of doing this full time. They want to build businesses doing this. They want to really make it in this new industry. And that's exciting. Not everyone's gonna be able to do that. There's no guarantees in this industry. I can tell you that much. But there's certainly ways to be able to increase your chances of being able to do this successfully and in a financially sustainable manner. So depending on what your goals are, that's going to totally change how you plan. These three changes in filmmaking apply to everyone. Costs are getting lower, how you share films is changing, and when and how you can make them has changed. Awesome. But your goals and your dreams are what matter most here. So we want to start there. Next is an understanding to achieve your dream. What is the least amount of time and money that you can use to make it possible? And no, I'm not talking about like use AI as the default and use it super efficiently. Like, let's just say as a given, you're going to be using the movie machine and doing it smartly. Like let's just say that it's a given. That's not always a given. That's hard to do. But we're trying to make it easier every single day. And as a sidebar, I'll just say that if you've had trouble using the movie machine, which it is my understanding that most folks have had trouble, that's not good and it's not your fault. So what we're doing now is adding an AI QA layer on top of the movie machine that's going to judge every single thing you do, watch every video you create, and tell you how you can make better videos and make better start frames and make better storyboards and even write better stories. Every step of the process, we're adding an AI QA layer in to help coach you up and do better. And as a side note on this, because I'm really excited about this feature, you'll be able to create your own avatar that's coaching you. And that avatar you can share with other people. They can use it at no cost. And you'll get paid a percentage of what we make when they spend money in the platform. Because ideally, if you have a good AI director, they're going to be making more movies. So you'll be able to create like the horror director or the this director or that will coach people as they use the movie machine in it. And this isn't going to take us months to build out. I'm hoping we have something in the next 30 to max 60 days that's going to like really, really help people learn this thing so much faster. So given that we're working really hard to take the reality and the ceiling of how fast and awesome you can make films with AI and bring all of you way closer to that ceiling way faster, the real question becomes, how much do you actually need to create, right? Because when we talk about films, a lot of us, and this is a funny thing that we found, the average person creates an end film half the length that they came into it thinking. Let me say that again because it's a nuanced but important point. If someone thinks their film is going to be 90 minutes, it probably only needs to be 45 minutes. And their final output typically is only 45 minutes. That is, I actually think, a good thing. Okay. I'll tell you why. I think a lot of us go, wow, okay, we imagine our film, we want it to be long, we want it to be big and beautiful. And I get that. Like, like that's fun. But the thing is, if you make like a 10-hour series, right? Like that sounds fun until you realize you have to make a 10-hour series. And sure, AI makes it infinitely easier, but 10 hours of content is still a lot to create. And there's an expense to that. And I don't want to scare people with this, but it's just reality. If you're going to make 10 hours of content, you're probably going to spend right around $100,000 on 10 hours of content. Let that one sink in. You'll probably spend less than an AI cost, but if you're hiring any help, you're definitely going to be spending that. Now, again, radically inexpensive compared to traditional filmmaking, but that is going to set someone back. So ultimately, if you want to create 10 hours of content, we need to be thinking about how can we do that sustainably over time? Because I know I don't have that money out of pocket. Very few people do. And we're not trying to build a world where you need 100K out of pocket to make 10 hours of film. But the truth is that it just takes so much time that, like, if you're not going to be spending money, you're going to be spending time. And if you're spending the time, then you're going to either have to take years to do it, or you're somehow able to do this full time because of a unique situation. All these things are beautiful, but um, the real answer is how do we get real about what we actually need to go hit publish? You want to see your story come to light, and you don't need 10 hours to go hit publish. You don't need 10 hours to understand if you should be investing more into this story. What you really need to do is make a pilot. And a pilot is essentially the a test of your film. Doesn't have to be um, yeah, well, exactly, Tom. This is a great point. We've had many people to us come up to us saying they want to make an 8-hour film, and that's been our exact thing. And pilots are how you test this. So I'll give you all a brief history of how pilots have operated in traditional filmmaking and why I believe they're going to make a huge comeback. So pilots traditionally were produced aired during January and February during pilot season. And these pilots would be usually a couple episodes of a TV series that were essentially a test to see on a cable audience, would they be able to get, viewership to grow week over week or at least sustain. And if they could get viewership at, a certain time slot to be comparable to past viewership, um, and grow week over week, they knew that they had a series people wanted to keep watching. And then they would invest in not just doing, a couple episodes of that pilot, but a full season and hopefully seasons after. What ended up happening with the pilot model is that it actually was very inefficient because the cost to test a pilot, when you think about all the pre-production work, all of the setup, bringing everyone together, was actually very high. And it was only marginally more expensive just to go produce a full season. So what started off as a great idea ended up only marginally saving money. And it just kind of is a practice that's still used, but it's not used as often. And that makes sense because you have so much fixed costs in traditional production. Even if you're only filming, if people are familiar with a strip board, you plan out your production in traditional filmmaking along not just the storyboard, the sequence of shots, but the ordering of shots that can be filmed in specific locations with specific characters. So what you'll be doing across a season, there's actually cost savings to producing more in traditional at times. Not tremendous cost savings, but there's some because if I have like a whole season of content, there might be 10 scenes that are similar in a same location with similar characters. So I'm going to go film them all in one day and save money on cast, camera, lighting, production, etc. Whereas if I'm only doing a pilot, that strip board isn't going to have as much overlapping scenes. We're going to be filming things much less inefficiently and therefore spending more money per minute. Okay, that's the equation in traditional filmmaking. In AI filmmaking, that does not apply at all. Like, it's just you're in the movie machine, you click a button and you get the next thing, you get the next thing. There's no fixed cost to bringing people together, which is why pilots, not only is AI filmmaking way cheaper to produce, but there's no advantage to producing something longer right off the gate. No advantage in AI filmmaking. There's no cost efficiency to producing something longer versus something shorter. So pilots are going to make a roaring comeback. And you, when thinking about planning for production success in 2026, should be thinking about building pilots. Now, what is that actually look like? So luckily I created completely for free a boot camp. It's called the Creatorwood Boot Camp, all about the 5-step pilot process. I'm putting it in the chat right here. It's 15 minutes to read through. It's a lot to take in, but the TLDR on this process that I am incredibly excited about is you want to start with the story idea, understand if you can get an audience for that idea, and then create enough of that story up to the retention point to engage viewers and not past that point. And if you know you can get people watching up to the retention point, they'll likely stay for the rest of that season or the rest of the movie. The retention point is the moment of a film that once people get to, they're very unlikely to stop watching. A retention graph is a show of every single moment in a film. What is the percentage of people who are watching that film? Right. So in the beginning of a film, 100% of people are at second one. How about by minute five? How many people have stopped watching? That is your retention. If let's say 70% of people are still watching, your retention is 70%. There's a moment in a film where the retention levels out. That graph levels out and there's very little drop off because people are hooked. That's your retention point. What you want to model out is how much people are actually sticking around to the retention point. Do you have an engaging story for the audience that you're creating for? This is what's called the retention point. On the average film, this is 10% of the way into your film. So if you're creating a season of television, it's one episode. If you're creating a feature-length movie, we're talking about maybe 10-ish minutes to 12-ish, 15 minutes max. That is all you should be creating up front and launching that and then seeing. Therefore, when we're planning production success, and you think about your vision for a longer form film, not only is your film probably shorter than you're imagining, even in the best case scenario, but you should only be producing 10% of that to even see if it will work. Because if you can't get people to watch the first 10% of your film, making the rest of that 90% is just going to be a waste of money, which if you're doing this just to get your story seen and you need to have like your life story share or it's a family heritage story, like absolutely go share it anyways. But if you're doing this with the expectation of a financial return so that you can invest and create more, it's worthwhile to be really smart about minimizing that investment. And I want to help you all do that. So Jack now asked about the process and capability of making a musical. Great question. So, I mean, to be clear, like the process for the movie machine is mostly the same for all films. A musical is just a slight variation. So, first is you have to upload obviously a musical script versus a normal script into the movie machine. You're then going to have your director's notes, which is all your characters, and I'll show you in a second what a musical can look like. You'll have your characters, your settings and locations, and then your storyboard with every shot planned out in your film. Um, some folks already have music inside of the editor in Creatorwood. They'll just bring in their music. Some folks want to generate music. I'd recommend using something like Suno to make your music if you're trying to do it all with AI. Then in Creatorwood, there's two options. When you go to make the video, you can make the video and then in the editor lip sync the music to the video, right? And that's your audio, and you have the audio with the lip sync to the video. Or you can, inside the Creatorwood editor, upload an audio track and we can generate video based on that audio track. It's called audio-driven video generation. So I'll show you how to do that, but that's essentially the TLDR and the workflow. You're gonna, at the end of the day, musicals are video. You need to create the video instead of Creatorwood. The audio Creatorwood will make for you too, but when it comes to your actual musical score during those moments, you're going to import it in and then just lip sync the singing onto the main track, and you're done. You've got everything you need to do there. And we already made a musical, and I'm sure we'll be sharing a more formal partnership that we're doing in that space shortly. It's still behind the scenes right now, but let me show you the TLDR on how you'll actually do it. It depends on the length of your film, Tom. If it's it depends. So, like 10 to 15 minutes, as I mentioned, for a longer length film is probably what it is because we're talking about 10%. If your film is only going to be 30 minutes, then yeah, 3 minutes is about right. If it's only going to be 30 minutes, if you're creating a 90-minute film, though, I would target right around 10 minutes. That seems to be it. 10% is the idea. The first 10% is what your pilot should be. So I'm inside this story right now. Now you'll see here when you upload your musical, it'll get turned into your character settings and props. This is just a test story that we use inside of Creatorwood. So Um, there's uh there's some funny things happening in here, but not like bad things. We just test things. Um, the storyboard is then when you'll see every shot in your musical or any film laid out, the AI auto generates this for you. What we added in now, some really fun things, is one slightly new look to the actual storyboard. Um, honestly, just making it look better. And what we do is if a shot is flagged, that means that you want to go back and review it. Pending means you haven't reviewed it yet. And approved means it's ready to go. So this is when you're collaborating with other people in a workflow together. You can very easily understand where things are at in the project. Um, then you'll go generate the video. And inside the editor here, let's open it up. You'll take this in, and there's this lip sync feature that you can select a shot and then select any audio. Let's say you want to take generate voice, upload audio, or generate any audio that's already in there. And then you can lip sync it right to it. And then we have a bunch of different lip sync models that you can use. So like any lip sync you could possibly imagine is right in here. Um, and we'll be building AI that's like automatically going to just route you to the different model that'll probably work best for you. But we give you control too, that if you want to test around and see different like lip sync providers, it's all right there. So that's how you'll make a musical. You'll just go from storyboard straight to here. And as I mentioned, like we're building like in the next couple weeks even, like reach out to us supporting if you ever run into any issues on the platform, but there's going to be AI inside of the platform coaching you every single step whenever you're confused about anything. So that you're just like guardrails, helped at every step, have a basically AI assistant who's helping you make your film, in addition to the AI who's making your film too. But the TLDR about the whole process is the only variable is where you're bringing in music from. Once you bring in the music, then it's inside of Creatorwood. You can import it into our editor right here. And then once you import it into the editor, you can lip sync any of it to each individual shot. And those shots you generate on your storyboard. And those shots are based off of the action, camera notes, and then the specific start frame of your film. And the start frame is literally the start frame, meaning that like if you're happy with your start frame, that is literally the start frame of your video. Um, so yeah, think of it like the movie machine is like a factory for making movies, and it's everything you'll need in a movie making process all in one place, and a bunch of different tools you can use when trying to accomplish different things. So the big equation in all of this, especially with pilots, is thinking through the most important equation in making a film, especially as a bootstrapped indie filmmaker. If you have funding or investors, like awesome, like that's great. But most of you all I know are either doing this yourselves, and are on a bootstrap budget, which means you're trying to self-fund this, you're trying to make it pay back. And the most important equation in understanding if you can keep investing into a film or not is not number of viewers, it's not your retention even, as funny as that sounds, it's actually your CAC payback, which your CAC payback stands for two things: cost or customer acquisition cost, payback. So what this means is if I'm putting a dollar into marketing, how fast am I getting that dollar back? How fast am I getting it back? And that'll dictate how much more I can then pour into marketing, how fast I'll then make back my production budget, and then how fast I'll have the budget on hand to make more of my production, right? And if you can't get this math to work, it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good for your film. And this is not something in a talent-led growth engine model that Hollywood thinks as much about. There is a CAC payback, but it's much longer. You got to outlay a bunch of cash to get into something. It takes years to distribute and pay back. But in the AI filmmaking world, a CAC payback can be instant. In fact, I don't want to advise anyone to do anything financially irresponsible, but you can have what's called a net negative customer acquisition cost payback, which is when you actually get paid to acquire customers, which I'll explain. So I don't know if folks have read this yet, but I made this thing called Author Marketing Superpowers. I'm gonna send y'all the link right here. Let's see. No, found it. So this is essentially a deck of 50 cards, totally free to download. Um, and it gives you like 50 superpowers to like market your stories essentially. And one of them that I call that I say in there is called like the infinite um, reader growth loop. But it's basically based on this foundation that if you understand what CAC payback is and you understand how important it is, uh, you can actually make money to acquire customers and effectively acquire like infinite viewers. And this is like when things blow up really fast, there's usually something like this working behind it. If it's an app, if it's a e-com company, uh, a lot of companies have a similar flywheel. So what this looks like is, and again, I'm not advising anyone to do anything financially responsible, so please don't do this unless you can pay it back. But let's say you have a credit card and you should not be putting a lot of money in this. Let's say you put $5 a day in it and you can afford to pay it back if you lose the money. This is really important. And please don't do this if this sounds like too crazy. But for people who are like understanding the math behind this, this is like going to be very interesting to you. And I've been doing this since I was like 15 years old. I've been like addicted to this game for a long time and I love it. So, it's something I'm comfortable with, but if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. But here's the idea. Your credit card, you get zero interest on, for most folks, as long as you pay it off by the due date, right? The full balance by the due date. That allows you to float your expenses for something like 30 to sometimes 45 days. If you can make back your customer acquisition cost within 30 to 45 days, then you didn't pay anything to market. You paid nothing to market. I have a friend, David. David Guts. He runs a company called Scaremail. 16 months ago, and he's like my best friend. Like I knew him before he made it. But he knew this whole equation, and was determined to kind of crack the code. And he was a cop, who living, largely paycheck to paycheck. He was funding his business by literally donating plasma and taking the couple hundred extra dollars he'd have a month and using it to build his storytelling business. He creates letters in the mail that he sends to people. It's a story told through letters. That's a scary story. It's super fun. And he nailed back an approach with Facebook ads where he'd spend $30 on average to make $100 upfront on that customer. So he would spend a $30 and within one day he'd get back $100 because they were buying his letters for $100. It would cost him about $40 to fulfill the letter. So he would make $30 in profit upfront. And then he would put that money immediately on his credit card, the actual expenses, paid off in 45 days. So he grew his business from just getting started to $1 million a year in 60 days. That's not a joke. I literally have a podcast episode with him on the Creatorwood channel where I talk all about it. And it's an amazing story, but this is the math that I'm trying to teach you guys, which is like if you understand the math behind how to essentially grow a storytelling business, you know, there's nothing stopping you from cracking the code, and you don't need to spend a lot of money to figure this out. You can spend, starting with $5 a day, spend 20, $50, see if it'll work. And if it doesn't work, move on, try something again, make another pilot, learn, keep going. The biggest thing that people get wrong here is they think that they'll get it the first time. It's a game of experimentation, iteration, and it's all about understanding this data point, which is your CAC payback. But here's the magic here. In traditional filmmaking and even in Netflix, they're based off a model that rocks for their investors long run, sucks for creative people, and also kind of sucks for consumers, and also sucks if you're trying to grow anything short term, which is subscriptions. I don't mind subscriptions. I think subscriptions are really cool. The problem with as a business, they're cool. As a consumer, I don't mind something if I'm going to keep using it, paying as a subscription. The problem with subscription is also the benefit of subscription. If I'm getting monthly payment for something, I've maxed out what I can get paid in my first 30 days. And if I'm spending $10 to acquire a customer and having a $10 subscription, I'm not making money ever in month one. I'm only able to start profiting in month two, which means that you really can't grow it that fast. You have to be very smart, very responsible with your money. And that's fine. That's fine, by the way. But when you nail the equation to grow something fast, it is fun. I enjoy it. You may or may not, but it's also just smart business to make your money back faster. So again, Netflix on the subscription model, how the business of filmmaking works now, kind of broken, not really that fun. If you're an individual producer, it kind of sucks for you because it's not even clear how you would receive payment from a subscription, which is why Netflix just does a cost plus model oftentimes. Which for those who don't know what cost plus is, they'll just pay you the production costs times a certain percentage, usually 20% or 30%, which it can be really good money if the person who's produced the content, if it's like a $20 million production budget. Definitely not complaining about that. But you don't always get paid proportional to the upside you're bringing Netflix, which happens all the time. Now, when we think about your own filmmaking business on Creatorwood, and you don't have to use Creatorwood. You can do this on Shopify on your own website. It doesn't matter. You can do this anywhere. Creatorwood is just built to help you do this. You can sell films direct to your audience. What this does, it means you can set the price and you can have them buy bundles of episodes and bundles of films from you, even on pre-order, which sounds nutty, but it's how it all works. And I want to share with you an article I wrote about how I did this. Literally now, I'm almost, it's been 6 years. I did this when I was in high school with one of my books. So I had published six sci-fi novels, and they had a grand total of for basically no sales. It was really sad. Um, and I spent $10,000 my own money on it. And when I say my own money, I literally made my own money. I got paid $10 an hour at my job. I worked part-time after school, full-time during the summer. So this was like a year of work that went into this. And all my money was gone. I made back $500, or maybe it was $900. It was like a minuscule amount. I spent $10,000 publishing six books, doing the covers, doing the editing, doing everything. So I'm very careful. Like why I'm so business focused and helping you guys build a business doing this is because I loved creating stories, still do. Unfortunately, I got the short hand of my own stick when I walked into a money pit that didn't need to happen. Um, this is the Author Marketing Superpowers, which is a free 5-day blog series that describes everything I learned in this process. But on day two, I did something very fun, which is I sold my book before I wrote it. And I literally, and I'm waiting for someone to do this in film and movies. Um, what I literally did is ran Facebook ads to page on Amazon, and I was charging for my book. And there was no reviews, and it wasn't even written yet, and it was just on pre-order. And I wanted to see, did people like the idea enough to throw down money on it? Very simple. And the answer was yes. I got 99 pre-orders, spending a couple $100 doing it. I think I spent maybe $150 on ads to get 99 sales. And I was like, we're done. Like, this is going to be great. And it was. It was my best-selling series, except for the fatal flaw in my equation, which is that day three came around, and I realized that my readers weren't reading past book one. Uh, they were buying book one and not reading more. So I didn't have a high lifetime value of my customer. So I may have been making my money back on my ads, but when I counted in production cost, I was not making much money. And you can see this here. Essentially is like a screenshot of my Kindle graph. And yeah, wow, this is almost 6 years ago now. So crazy. Um, but I had made a little over $1,100 a month. This was book one royalties, a little over $800. $200 was book two royalties. That was a huge drop off. People were not reading through my story. And before investing more in ads like I did and starting to spend $1,000 a month, what I should have done was actually really tested my book one to make sure, cool, I know I can sell book one, but can I get people to read book one, which is the pilot model? Sell show, get them to watch show, and then see what you can do from there. And the actual way to like really do this and like really nail it would be to go and use a platform. And this is how you can literally do this with no money out of pocket. Creatorwood's going to be building in our own premiere feature soon, where you can literally premiere films before they're released and run a crowdfunding campaign to see if people will buy and pre-order something on a film that doesn't exist. And also I had no buy on our podcast. So I try and talk to all the smartest people for you all and create this information for you guys. I don't know why Kickstarter didn't load it first. But this is Kickstarter. There's a creator here. His name's Novi Callum. He's an AI film creator, and making a tremendous film called The King's Weaver. This is a trans superhero film. Really, really cool. And it's something that um, I I don't know if I don't know if Hollywood would ever make this because of budget constraints of special effects. Very, very cool that this story is able to be brought to life. They raised over $8,000 from 142 people to bring this story to life using AI, which, as you all know from a production budget standpoint, that'll pretty much get you a full-length film. Um, and I actually was a backer of this project as well. They got people to back at like all different levels for this, pre-ordering the show, essentially. So you can market a pre-order show, see if it'll do well, and if viewers want to back it, fund your pilot from the viewers' money, then take the pilot, make the pilot, see if people will watch the pilot, and if they do, make more of it, and then you see how this all works together. It's like it starts to like once you get it, it's like magic. It's like you don't need we talk about there being a weird entry to filmmaking. There's none now. You just need an idea, and you can get people to support this and make this sustainable from day one because you don't need 1,000 fans. You just need, in this case, around 100. And honestly, this is for a full-length film. If you're just trying to fund a pilot, you can even get 20 people to back it who are just excited about your film. And once again, if you can't get 20 or 100 people to back your idea on a film, this isn't give up. This isn't you're bad at storytelling. This is just let's learn and try and get that backing next time. Because ultimately, you can decrease your risk at every step of the process. And that's what I want to help you all do. How do you decrease your risk in doing this, right? That's the whole idea. Planning for production success really is de-risking your production. And once you understand what a successful production looks like, making your money back fast, right? That's what it is. Then the answer becomes, how do I actually not spend money at all out of pocket? And when you look at that from a first principle, you can understand, wait, I can fund my marketing low key, not with any money out of pocket if I market well. One. Two, I can fund my production if I find people willing to pay for the production before I have it. And I know I can sell things just based off an idea, not because some crazy guy on screen is telling me, but because someone just like you, who literally one of my great friends also did this. And I know you can do it too. And if you're curious, I'll link to that podcast episode with Novi right now on the Creatorwood podcast all about this. Studio. Let's see. There we go. The first author-led movie studio. Oh, that's the YouTube studio link. That won't work for y'all. I'm sorry. Give me one moment. I have to copy the viewer link. That link will work. Great. So this was probably a lot of information, but hopefully this gives you my principles here on how to plan production success. So I want to wrap it all up in a bow, give it to you, and then I'll be here for any questions. And then we're going to publish this on YouTube, but it's going to take us a while to get it out because I'm running an experiment where I'm having some great editors coming onto our team to like take these lectures and like add sound effects, music, make it very visual, add interesting components to it. So TLDR is you'll be getting a video soon that's very professionally produced on this topic. That'll be a recording of this, but it'll take them time to edit it. Editing an hour does take some time, but let's dive into the takeaways. Number one, cost production is going down exponentially, and it already is. As mentioned, it costs us something like $160 all in to pay people from the ground up to make something for us, counting AI and labor costs. If you're doing it yourself, basically half that number, but substitute it with, some of your time, right? Two is, and this one's big, really big. How we discover films is changing. You used to need A-list stars to actually market your film. Now you just need to be able to share a video on social media. The difference is it's better to market a film made to be watched on a phone on social. If you're trying to get something watched on a TV, the talent-led model still tends to be helpful. And this makes sense because it's where you're finding traffic congruent to how you're discovering them. And that makes sense. And then three is when and where you make films is changing. You don't need to be on a production set anymore. So it's not just that the cost is coming down. Who can do this changes because people in many different positions of their life, many different lifestyles, many different times and time availability can still make production happen. Then what we talked about was, what are you really doing this for? What is your vision? That's going to affect everything going forward. Assuming you want to turn this into a business of some sort, assuming you want to make this financially sustainable, the first thing to remember is there's no guarantees. This is a hard business. And I'm not here telling you that it's easy. I'm also not here telling you that there's unlimited money. Instead, what I'm telling you is something much more practical, which is if you take the right steps, you can decrease the risk of your film not succeeding, or in reality, increase the probabilities that your film will succeed in payback. And if you also approach your production smartly, you can spend very little money and time out of pocket figuring that out. Meaning, let's just make sure your worst case scenario is as good as possible, and let's make it increasingly likely that you achieve your best case scenario. Cool. If we understand that, then how we do this is three simple things. One, can we get viewers to support and like our film before we even begin production? Running a crowdfunding campaign is a great way to do that. Kickstarter is a platform that does that. Soon, Creatorwood is coming out with their own feature to allow you to do this. Can we get viewers interested before you even create it? Then you don't need to spend any money out of pocket. Your risk now has gone to zero. But the second really important thing is money is never unlimited. Production budget is a thing. So how much of your film do you really need to create to start selling it and getting out in the world? And if you want to make a full-length film, that's going to cost a lot more than creating something shorter. I'd recommend starting with a pilot, which is the first 10% of your film, which ultimately brings down your expected production budget by a lot and makes things like crowdfunding even more accessible. Next, not and last, but certainly not least, is step three in this process, which is when you actually want to start to scale your marketing and share your story with the world in a broader context. The biggest thing to know here is, what is your CAC payback? How fast can you make your money back when you're marketing? Typically, you have to spend a lot of money on a star and hope and pray. You don't need to do that anymore. You can spend just $5 a day on a Facebook ad, on a TikTok ad, with a snippet of your video, which literally we have a feature now. We haven't even started marketing it yet, but we're wrapping up a feature inside Creatorwood called Teasers and Trailers, all about this, all about you essentially creating a teaser and trailer of your story. So you could create a teaser of your story, share it with the world, and see if you can drive viewership. And the biggest thing is, once you drive that viewership, how fast will they pay you back an amount of money that allows you to break even and ideally make money on your ads? And if you can do that fast, you don't have to go out of pocket a lot of money, or as we talked about, if you utilize credit, you can actually go out of pocket no money. You can make money up front to get viewers, which is pretty remarkable and wild that we live in a time when these tools are widely accessible to most people in one way or another. So we're going to keep doing our best to make all this more accessible, the technology easier, the business side of it easier, every part of this easier. But for now, all I want to say is thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'd love, before I go, if anyone has any questions that I can answer, because I know this is a lot of information. But I know if you follow these steps, you will be ready for production success in 2026 and beyond. And even if you're not considering filmmaking now, you're self-publishing your books, this is all applicable. If you are in the world of traditional filmmaking, everything I'm saying is still largely applicable to that world. There's still differences in approach for sure, differences in marketing channel, but the principles apply because these principles are just how you make a sound production. With that said, thank you everyone, storytellers of the world, as always. And what questions does everyone have that I can answer? There has to be some. Maybe there's none. Everyone got it all. I believe it because y'all are very smart, but I want to make sure I get any questions if people have them. And I linked a lot of things in the chat. I recommend you go watch them, read them. Um, Tom, I'm grateful to have you here. That's what it's about, increasing the probability of success. Um, that's that's what it's all about. One thing I didn't share yet, is something I adore, which is a story gap, which I highly recommend this if you're trying to think about what story ideas might interest and engage people. I love this article. It's about what a story gap is. So how you can identify a story that people are likely to want to watch, and want to engage with that hasn't been created yet. That's the big thing. How can you innovate and make things that are net new in storytelling? Which I think there's never been a better time than now, with AI to have fun, experiment. And if we increase our chances of success and decrease the risk involved, ultimately what this gives us is so much more creative freedom to have fun and try new things. That's my end goal for all of you, that you can just have more fun and try new things because you're basically minimizing what you can lose and hopefully maximizing your chances that you'll gain something and be sustainable. With that said, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Michael, Greg, Marnie, uh, all of y'all for being here. I'm gonna head out now. I hope everyone has an amazing rest of their weekend. All is very well, and then I wanted to finish the article that I was writing. But I'll be back next Friday. I'm hosting the next few, and then I'll have Sashva host the one at the end of January. It'll be a little bit more tech focused. So we'll switch off. Some will be like really deep, creative AI filmmaking. Some will be more business focused. Some will be, we'll see. But I look forward to seeing you all shortly. In the meantime, have an amazing rest of your day. And don't forget, storytellers for the wealth. See y'all soon.